Kaz from Yorkshire Peaches Therapies, and welcome back to another episode of Hop, Skip and a Jump. Today's episode, I'm joined by the amazing Carolina of Chewing with River. Carolina is a ethical dog trainer with a keen focus on nutrition. This conversation, we touch base with the gut-brain axis and why it's so important that we need to also look at nutrition when we are working with dogs. So I'm going to stop talking, let's jump into it. Carolina, thank you so much for joining me today on Hop, Skip and a Jump. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. So you are an ethical dog trainer, but also a nutrition consultant. Tell me more. How did you get to that place where you're like, actually, I think food has quite a lot to do with behaviour? Was it an overnight thing, or was it like a gradual kind of revelation?
I would say definitely a gradual. So I started into the training world volunteering at puppy classes. So it was very like light touch, I was basically there to mop up pee and chop up treats, move equipment around. But I just really enjoyed it. And I was genuinely just doing it as a thing to do because I just enjoyed volunteering. And then the trainer at the time, um, kind of offered me, well, later down the line, kind of offered me the opportunity to train up as a trainer. So I was like, you know what? Why not? Like true ADHD fashion, I was like,
Yeah, let's go for
why
it.
not have another hyper focus? So yeah, so we kind of started just really with the training element. And then I was waiting for about a year to get my own dog, my first dog, and started researching around food and just getting very confused about dog food and just finding it all very overwhelming. One Facebook group saying, oh, it's all about kibble. Another Facebook group saying it's all about raw. Another Facebook group saying you've got to murder the animals and chop them up in your kitchen, otherwise you're not doing enough for your dog. So it was like, I don't know what to do. So that's kind of what then started the nutrition side of it, was really trying to prepare to do the best for my puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I started working as a trainer, one to one, particularly not so much in a class environment, kind of realizing that a lot of the dogs that seem to have a lot of more sort of like your hyperactive behaviors, or like a lot of like quite severe teething, even though teething is quite normal for a puppy. Like these puppies were just like wired and nipping so much and jumping up so much. And that's kind of when I started seeing the link that their diet wasn't very good,
Mm-hmm.
or the treats that the owners were using were quite poor quality. And I think that's where I started kind of joining the dots a little bit, because when you kind of study training, I've, people talk about it more now, but not so much 5 years ago.
Mm.
It was training is training, right? And then nutrition was nutrition, and there wasn't really much of a crossover in terms of the education that you could access. So yeah, that's kind of how both of them came about. And I think particularly now, because I've been working as a trainer for such a long time, working like reactivity cases,
Mm-hmm.
dog and human aggression cases, you just see that link so clearly. And it's I just can't think how I function as a trainer before the nutrition knowledge, to be honest. I'm like, oh my God, I was missing such a big gap. So
It's the exact same for me as a therapist. I used to this is I think it was when I was first training to be a therapist. That took me just over a year, I think, to train. And there wasn't much mention of nutrition. There was maybe like the odd like hint, and I was like, "No, I've got it. I'm on insert dried dog food name there," and it's complete. So yeah, what could it possibly
okay,
like? Yes, um,
it's
what
balanced.
it's balanced, it's complete, they're getting everything they need. And again, it wasn't an overnight kind of realization. It was, raw was getting talked about more. I was hearing a lot of chatter about it, and it was actually my dog Rodney who he just had a really wet shit one day, and I went, "Oh, I'm sick of this terracotta slop. I'm gonna try this roll that everyone keeps going on about."
I can smell it just
Oh,
thinking about it.
proper hits the back of your throat, didn't it? And I put down a bowl of, it was the Dog's Butcher duck and maybe duck and tripe, which is a weird one to start with. I think I just went and just picked up the first one. Duck sounds
As many
okay.
people do.
Like and I remember putting the bowl down, and my dog Rodney was like, "What is this?" I was like, "This is food," and he tried to roll in it. You know, like when they do that with fox shit. And I was like, oh god, what's happening? No,
The bacteria, you're gonna
the
kill
bacteria.
us all.
You're gonna kill everyone in the house. And actually, no one died. And his, like, literally within 2 days, I was like, these poos are fantastic. Oh my goodness, these are great. And then I started doing more research, more reading, and it wasn't until I think I'd already been raw feeding, but I didn't really know massively what I was doing. And then COVID hit, and I did a course with is it Dogs Naturally or something? They have like a raw nutrition course. I think they're based in the States. So I did this course, and it was like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. Like, I could not believe how I didn't see how important nutrition was, and that's how I fell into it. So as a trainer, I've got a note written down here. I'm just going to say gut brain axis. Gut brain axis, such a huge topic, but so say for example, pet parent comes to you and they're like, well, we need a bit of help with training. I think we need some help with the nutrition. How do you weave in that gut brain axis kind of sentiment, or that? Well, it's biology essentially, but not a lot of people may know about it.
Yeah. So to be honest, like from the moment that I do a discovery call with somebody, so before they've even signed up, before they've even paid anything for a service, there are certain questions that I ask. And there's certain things that a no will say that will then trigger me to ask some follow-up. So I always ask if the dog is generally healthy. And then people will normally go, yeah, all good. Vet's happy with the dog. And then I will go, okay, no issues with ear infections, itchy skin, anal gland issues, because they tend to be kind of the ones I see the most. And then the owners will go, oh, yeah. Like the anal glands get done about twice a quarter, or, whatever it might be. And so I start getting an understanding that actually there's more going on than just maybe the training that you've called me about. And trying to kind of figure out how much of the behavior is actually behavioral and how much of it is got maybe a pain component, whether that be joint pain, whether that be gut pain. So from a very early stage, I start identifying these things really. And there have been people that have contacted me about training. And then in that discovery call, I went, hang on a minute. I don't think this is a time to train. I think your dog's too poorly to be training. We need to fix the gut first, because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. Because this is something that I don't think a lot of trainers often appreciate, is that particularly those of us that work on reactivity cases, sometimes it's almost as if you hit a brick wall and the dog just does not seem to make any progress. And sometimes it is just from lack of experience and like using the wrong kind of rehabilitation plan. But let's assume there's a really good rehabilitation plan in place, the trainer really knows what they're doing, but the dog is still hitting that brick wall. If no one has stopped to kind of ask about health, that's probably what the brick wall is. So I will sometimes ask people to send me videos of their dogs walking and running, just so I can see if they like move. I mean, it's not my specialism. I'm not like, educated around gait analysis or anything like that, but you start picking up on some of the more obvious changes of gait. So I get people to send me the videos sometimes before I've even scheduled them in, and they've even before they paid a penny. Because if I see something that doesn't look right, I will just say, can we get this investigated first? I don't want to work with a dog that is painful, because I know, one, it's unethical, like so unethical. But two, we're going to make a little bit of progress, and then we're going to hit that brick wall. So instead of getting to that point and then the owner's getting really upset, really disheartened, feeling like they're not making any progress, feeling like maybe they've hired the wrong person, Like, let's just address the root cause of the issues. And sometimes I have had cases where actually we've addressed the nutrition and then the training just like everything almost just magically resolved itself when it came to like the behavioral side of things. Um, and I'm not here to give people false hope, but in some cases it can happen because the behavior was just so deep rooted
Mm-hmm.
in that gut discomfort or orthopedic discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that it's one of the first things that I look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like immediately, I just don't feel like there's any point going into the brain until we fix the gut. And equally, there will also be cases where people come to me about nutrition
Mm-hmm.
when actually there's such severe behavioral problems that we then hit brick walls with the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I have a client at the moment, super anxious dog, um, came to me to help with digestive issues, blood in stool, da 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 da. Has been on a hydrolyzed diet for over a year. But because this dog is such an anxious dog, anytime certain things happen, for example, a visitor coming to the house, traveling in the car, which happens like at least twice a week because they go to daycare and obviously they have to travel there and back.
Mm-hmm.
These things can have massive impacts on the nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So the nutritional kind of progress
It's
then
it's
keep
stunted.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just keeps being so slow because we're not addressing the behavioral parts. So that's where having kind of the both sides of the
Mm-hmm.
expertise, I can go, actually, do you know what, guys? Like, you need to be looking at this too, whether it's with me or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
The behavior needs to be addressed because I kind of explain it as like a balance. Like, you've got the brain on one side, the gut on the other side. If you've got the brain poorly, the gut's going to come down too. If you've got the gut poorly, the brain's going to come down too. So you've got to heal both sides
Mm-hmm.
to kind of keep that nice balance of a dog that is truly healthy,
Mm-hmm.
rather than a dog that has got one side of them always knackered and
Yeah, yeah.
always like fighting for its
Yeah,
life.
yeah. It's like one extreme or the other, isn't it? And it's so important for me from kind of like a pain aspect. So pain can occur anywhere in the body. You can get pain from kidney disease. You can get pain from digestive upset. You can get pain from trapped gas, and there's all these things. They're all uncomfortable, right? And we one of the things that I described kind of the gut brain axis is it's telephone wire, right? And it's the enteric nervous system, which is solely linking the brain to the gut via the vagus nerve. So I think people will maybe recognize vagus nerve a little bit more, but all it is, it's a communication system. And I say, if you ever get nervous, well, this happens to me. If I get nervous, so that is
Nervous tick.
oh yeah, my stomach wants to join in the party. So that is an emotional experience, then becoming a visceral experience and going, I'm going to give you a bad belly now because you've gone outside of the WF10 postcode. That's just like one of my things. I just get bad belly and I am completely out of myself in this podcast. But also, it's a bi-directional communication line. So as much as the brain is talking to the gut and the thousands and millions of neurons that are in there, the gut is also talking to the brain. So one of the things I talk about, especially when it comes to pain, so things like serotonin, our happy chemical, and GABA, which is an inhibitor. Serotonin in particular, it's something crazy like 90% of it is produced in the gut. And then that'll go the little intestinal villi. They go, oh, thanks for that, and they'll send it through into the bloodstream and send it where it needs to go, up into the brain, which is then going to help support a dog that is anxious because they are painful. They need more serotonin. So it's that communication line all the time with pain, but it has huge behavioral impacts. And I think I say it on every episode of this podcast, I am not a trainer, I am not a behaviorist, but what I do talk about is how pain can present through behaviour. Things like lead pulling, things like resource guarding, things like reactivity. There's so many ways that can be linked into pain, and
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with the pain. aspect, and the vet deals with like their aspect of the pain side of things. But really, you need an ethical trainer to support you with like, I don't know if behaviour modification. What was the word you used? A rehab plan.
Yeah, I like calling it rehabilitation because I think it gives the pet parent a bit more of an expectation that this isn't about quick fixes. This is a process,
Mm-hmm.
and I think people are quite used to the term of rehab as
Yes.
something that is a process.
Yeah.
So I think rehabilitation works quite well to help people understand this might take some time. There might be ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about getting your dog to a point of health, not just physical, but also mental.
Yeah.
And I think, the point that you were making about serotonin, that's why the majority of reactive dogs have a bad gut and vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
is because that's the gut is so poorly that there's nothing going up there.
Mm-hmm.
So then the dog is basically super nervous, anxious, frustrated all the
And
time
then you have all
because
that cortisol as well, eroding
yeah, yeah,
everything.
and,
Yeah.
and this is this constant chemical imbalance that in humans we have become so much better at understanding because we talk about mental health for humans so
Mm-hmm.
much more, and we can understand that yes, when someone is depressed, for example, it will affect so many areas of their life,
Mm-hmm.
including physical conditions and very physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it comes to dogs, it's almost people aren't able to make that same kind of
Crossover, like
logic
connection.
apply.
Yeah, yeah. So, have you got? I'm going to put you on the spot here. A case in particular that you can think of where nutrition. We'll go with nutrition. So, nutrition was a huge underpinning to a dog's behaviour, or maybe it's a bit of both. Have you got a juicy case to share with us?
I've got one juicy case that it's not so much nutrition, but it's everything you could think of. This poor dog. So I think this would be a good one to share because I think it'll make people understand like the intricacies of behavior
Mm-hmm.
and how everything can be so interconnected. So I had an inquiry for training.
Mm-hmm.
The owners were describing this dog as reactive, as suddenly become reactive to other dogs. Um, Very rude if a dog approached and were trying to sniff this dog's bum. Um, so we're kind of talking through this and like first red flag, sudden behavioral change.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put a pin in that one. That's the first thing that was a red flag for me. It was a sudden behavioral change. This wasn't a dog that's always behaved this way around other dogs. Second red flag for me was the bum sniffing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a dog that is dog reactive, either like frustration based or like more like anxiety based, generally speaking, there's a pattern to the reactions where dog sees dog, dog reacts.
Mm-hmm.
This dog could see lots of dogs on walks from a distance crossing the road, and the dog was fine. It was only when dogs approached and sniffed his bum.
Mm.
So that was the second red flag that for me made me think, I'm not sure this is like fully behaviorally. Um, so then I asked about the dog's health and I said, how is the dog doing? Have you had a vet check recently? Is there anything going on? And said, oh, yeah, we've been having this nightmare with his anal glands. The vets have actually suggested that we have his anal glands removed. Yeah, I know. That was also my face. Thankfully, because I was like, oh. So
What?
yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, tell me a bit more about these anal glands, what's going on. So basically, like a super long history of anal gland expressions leading to infections, leading to then having to use anti-inflammatories, steroids, all sorts of different treatments. So then we have a much better explanation as to why this dog is reacting to dogs only if they're sniffing his bum, because this dog has got a sore bum pretty much all the
The
time
time.
because his anal glands have been infected and just sore so much,
And the
right?
memory of that pain and the memory of interactions around that area being uncomfortable as well, yeah.
Absolutely. So then I say, right, I think maybe we need to have a look at the dog's nutrition before we look at training, because I think the reason this dog is reacting is because they're painful. So we maybe need to look at why these anal gland issues are happening. Most of the time, anal gland issues that I see are diet based. So something in the dog's diet that is meaning soft stools, which means the glands aren't expressing naturally, they're filling up, they're leaking, they're having to be manually expressed. Manual expression then can cause some scar tissue, which means the glands then struggle to naturally express even more. And there's just this vicious cycle. So I said, right, let's look at the nutrition. So we start working through a nutrition program, and I'm thinking, this makes no sense. This dog's diet is a good diet. The treats they're using are good quality. The supplements they're using are good. I mean, there was obviously like some improvements to be made, but there was nothing that was screaming at me and telling me, oh, nutritional red flag. I just could not understand why this dog was needing that anal glands expressed so often. One of the key things that made even less sense was the fact that this dog's poops were actually generally healthy looking. And if you have healthy poops, normally there's a really, like, most likely than not, the glands should be expressing themselves naturally, because by the dog kind of pushing a sort of firm enough stool should be emptying those glands. So then in conversation about this, I say, send me a video of the dog pooping. And that was
Honestly,
one
it's part and parcel of our job is talking about shit and talking about how dogs go to the toilet. It comes up so often, so
yeah.
often.
So I was just thinking, like, is there something more like mechanical going on? So we know there's going to be scar tissue because this dog has had to have the glands expressed so much. So we know that could be a possibility. But the dog is having healthy poops. So I thought, is there something else here? Like, why are these glands just filling up? It just wasn't making sense. So I said, send me a video of the dog pooping. And this is when I saw that the dog was very hesitant squatting. The dog had, it then transpired later down the line that there'd been episodes of the dog yelping whilst pooping.
Oh, baby.
And that wasn't even ever mentioned, because the assumption was just, oh, because the glands are infected, it hurts, so he's yelping. But I just saw this hesitancy in the squat and this kind of squat poop move kind of thing, like when dogs kind of just leave a trail. And I was like, no, there's something orthopedic going on here. There's got to be, because the way the dog is pooping is not normal. It doesn't look right. So the dog is now under investigation for orthopedic issues. We're not quite sure yet if it's gonna be hips, spine. Looks like his patella has been in the discussion as well. But what I think, until we can gather more information, is that what started as maybe an orthopedic issue causing pain led this dog to then poop in a way that wasn't putting enough pressure through those glands. And then they were filling up, and then they were getting infected. And then because it was so painful from those orthopedic issues and the anal gland infections, the dog then started reacting to other dogs.
That is that. I mean, it's awful for the dog, but the whole journey is a perfect kind of all encompassing of how something that started over here can then turn into anal gland problems, can then turn into what they believe to be a behavioural issue, and actually kind of pulling back those layers and understanding has potentially got the dog on the right track. They were already sort of on this track, they just needed to take a little shortcut over here to go and look at something different. And this is the thing when I teach, I talk about, is that we're looking at whole body systems. And, I have to check myself sometimes and go, because if a dog comes to me with hip dysplasia, for example, I'm like, hips, 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 hips. I'm
Hmm.
like, actually, I'm missing something because this dog has skin issues as well. And if we've got skin issues, how are we dealing with those skin issues? And then it sends me back to look at the gut and go, okay, we're being fed raw, but actually we've just had a course of steroids or antibiotics or, a bad bout of
And
diarrhea.
also, can we just pause a second?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, just because the dog is raw fed doesn't necessarily mean that diet is the most appropriate and healthy.
yeah.
Like, I think there's this concept that, oh, but the dog is raw fed. Like, that
It's
doesn't
not a plaster
mean,
for everything.
yeah.
I had to take. I've talked about my dog Lily's anal glands a lot. I had to take her off raw, and she's uncooked because that's the only thing that I can get her anal glands stable on. She needs that additional fibre. I do
Yeah.
believe it's linked to her conformation, but also she has a low grading of luxatum patella, which then in turn will impact how well she can squat and walk. And I think it sounds really weird. The conformation of her butthole's like weird because for such a little dog, her poos are really short but really wide. So it's like I can't help you with that aspect of it, Lily, but what I can do is tweak your diet to maybe try and change the shape of your poo with that additional complex carbohydrates. She's a dog that's never had problem with her skin or her ears, so I feel confident to add in those complex carbs, to add in that extra fibre.
Mhm.
Touch wood, I don't have to do much with those anal glands anymore. She does still have to have the manual express, but it's now once every 3 months or something like that. But she'll tell me. She'll tell me when she's like, and she's kind of like whipping round and itching. I go, okay, these are full. These need doing. Um, but she never had anal gland problems, never. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden she did, and she had, I think it was 3 anal gland abscesses, and they are painful. They are so
I
painful.
was going to say that.
So
Yeah.
painful. And I was like, I tried everything, just in like the bone content she was having. Then she'd get another one. I was like, right, okay, I'll change the supplements. I'll do this, I'll do that. And then she got another one. I went, no, not doing this
Yeah.
anymore.
The
But,
thing is, like, I think anal glands, like, I mean, I talk about anal glands way too much. Like, it's
mm.
not healthy. But the thing with anal glands is that it's become such a normalized thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's so common.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things that I say all the time. Just because something is common, it doesn't mean it's normal. But it has become so normalized that dogs are going to the vets constantly to have their glands expressed
Mm-hmm.
with no discussion about what's causing these glands to need help in the first place, because that's a part of the body that should be able to function,
Without
you know,
intervention.
independently,
Mm-hmm.
and without all of this constant input. And yeah, and that conversation just isn't happening. We're just not stopping and being like, right, okay, we keep expressing these dogs anal glands every month, every 6 weeks, however often. Like, we should maybe do something about it to
Mm-hmm.
prevent them from filling up in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of something that really aggravates me about anal glands. And then the other part of it as well is the lack of understanding from um behavioral perspective, because it can be quite traumatizing for the dog, which then cause a lot of issues with general handling,
Mm-hmm.
associations with vet clinics, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But then from like just thinking about the mechanics of it, because of the possibility of that scar tissue building up, that could mean that we're putting the dog at a higher likelihood of needing that intervention.
Because once you start,
Then,
it's a slippery slope with anal glands, for want of a
yeah,
better phrase. But once you start having to have them expressed,
yeah.
that's where
And
you, yeah.
some dogs, you change the diet, you maybe use supplements, whatever the plan might be, and the dog will then go on to have no further issues
Mm-hmm.
and need no more expressions. Other dogs will still need them, but at least we've reduced the frequency of that
Yes.
intervention.
Yeah.
And I would say that in and of itself is a win,
Yeah.
because we're supporting the dog's body to work as it should.
Mm.
We're not putting the dog through quite a painful and traumatizing procedure.
Mm-hmm.
as often
Yeah.
as we were,
Mhm.
and we keeping the dog comfortable, which obviously should be first and foremost, really,
Yeah.
to make sure that they're comfortable. So, yeah, anal glands I could talk about all the time.
Yeah, absolute bane of. Well, it was the bane of my life because seeing Lily go through those abscesses was just it was just awful, and then cleaning it, and then Fatizo in it, and she was so upset by it, and it was so painful as well. And it's just horrible. Like I had to. She was given pain relief, but there's only so much that pain relief is going to do when you've got an abscess that needs to be sorted out. And just holding her while like when she screamed, I was absolutely just devastated.
Yeah.
And but now we've gone. It was monthly along with cooked food. Now it's once every 3 months, and I'm like, I think that's roughly about where the best that we're going to get with it. Um, just to try and ward off any other potential anal gland abscesses. But at that point, when she started with it, I honestly, I thought she'd ruptured her cruise ship. That is like, it's like my biggest fear. She was laid down, and I was like, "You're right, Nin." She just looked a bit fed up, and I picked her up, and the scream that came out of her, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I'm there checking every digit, checking every joint. I'm like, "Right, okay, foot's all right, okay, stifle's okay," and then I like palpated her hind limb, and she screamed again. I was like, "Okay,
Oh,
is that cruciate? Is it what's going on?" And then I thought, "Surely not." And I lifted her tail up, and there was a massive lump on her. I was like, "Are you what? Where has this come from? What?
yeah.
What?" But I deal a lot with orthopedic pain, so of course I was like, "Oh my god, it's a cruciate." It wasn't. It was her bum. It was her bum. God bless her.
It
But
was
yeah,
a pain in the ass.
it was a pain in the ass, literally. But it's an important conversation to have. Um, Obviously, you talk a lot about digestive health with your work. I talk a lot about digestive health with my work, and I would love more people to talk about digestive health. And if it's a conversation you're not comfortable with having, that's what people like yourselves are there for, to help guide people through nutrition. I think this is something we kind of touched on briefly before the podcast. I don't call myself a nutritionist. You call yourself a nutrition consultant. I say wellness consultant because it encompasses the pain and the nutrition side of things. And I think just be really mindful where you get your advice from. Just because someone's got thousands of followers online doesn't necessarily mean that their knowledge is translatable or there's a qualification behind it. And that's not, to dig at anyone in particular. It's just be mindful about where you get that information. Go on recommendation, look at people's reviews, look at, are they insured to be talking about this? Because even though, for example, with my work, I might not be putting my hands on the dog, but I'm insured for the words that I speak,
Yeah.
and that's to keep
Yeah.
people safe.
Yeah, and that is such a good point. And I think very much like the training world, the nutrition world is also not regulated. So there isn't a one pathway from an educational standpoint
Mm-hmm.
that you can follow that will make you a canine nutritionist.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just doesn't exist in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And it does mean that there's a lot of people working as nutritionists, maybe doing things that they shouldn't really be doing, taking cases that are maybe a bit too complex. And I think, like, speaking directly to the professionals that are listening to this, like, I would have no problem with any professional giving me a call and saying, right, I've got this client,
Mm-hmm.
this is the issue. Like, is this something that you can help with?
Mm-hmm.
Like, ask those questions before you send your clients to places.
Absolutely,
Because
100%.
like, and if you feel as protective of your clients as I do, I will ask a million questions before I even send a link to somebody else's like
Yeah,
business page.
because it's
Like
on
I
you,
want,
isn't it? It's a
yeah,
reflection of you, and who you choose to work with is a reflection of your ethics and your principles as a business. I know that I'm very very it's taken a long time. I've been working in this industry for coming up a decade, which is scary. But I know that if someone says to me, Yaz, I've got nutrition stuff going on, but actually there's training, I'm like, do you know what? I'm not the right fit for you. You need to go speak to Carolina. Or anything kind of like training related. I'm very fortunate that I've managed to connect with ethical trainers like yourself and lots of different ethical trainers all over the UK and beyond that I know that I'll go, do you know what? This isn't part of my remit. You need to go and see them. Even with certain like therapeutic cases. So like say for example, I had someone get in touch saying I want to bring my dog to you. I think they were like post surgical. They were post surgical from IVDD, and I went, nope, I'm not the right one. You need to see a physio. It's a physio you need. The first 12 weeks are so important because the way that a physio works and the way that I work are completely separate and completely different, and they need to do their thing. You come see me after you're stable with the physio, and then we'll start doing the things that I do. And it's just about knowing what cases you're comfortable with, having a good support network around you. I've got my wonderful physiotherapist Charlotte from Braybrook, who's part of the Yorkshire Pooches team, and also Helen from Roots to Rehab, another member of the Yorkshire Pooches team. Having people on your team just as a soundboard is so important. Again, as people who run their own businesses for our own sanity and mental health, we need to have these conversations with each other, just to kind of keep everything nice and clear, so that ultimately the customer, the pet parent, and the dog is getting the absolute best quality care
And I
that you
think
can provide.
that's what it is. It's like I have no problem, and I have had inquiries from people where I've gone, actually, this isn't within my expertise. Like I'm not going to take on this case because I can't help you. And that what you've just said, it's ultimately about that dog getting better and staying well. And so that referral can be the difference between the dog getting or not getting the help that they need. And also, is the service that that dog is going to receive going to be safe and going to be promoting of the dog's health?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be something that actually could harm the dog?
Yeah.
Like even something that people might not realize, like a recommendation for a dog walker. If it's a dog walker that is then putting your dog on a slip lead without you knowing and yanking the dog about just because they can't be arsed. Oh, sorry, I swore.
No, it's alright. I swear all the time. Shit. There you go. I've done it. It's alright.
So, and this dog walker is just yanking the dog about because they can't be bothered with the dog pulling. And instead of communicating with the client saying, listen, your dog's pulling too much and it's making these walks really difficult for me to manage, can you maybe consider doing some training? Or maybe I need to do one-to-one walking rather than group walking. And instead of having those conversations, the dog walker just goes, do you know what? Slip lead around the dog's neck, yank him about a little bit, and then stop pulling. Even that, because that can impact the physical health of the dog, that will certainly impact the behavioral health of the dog. So even something like recommending a dog walker could have long-term impacts. I mean, let's not even get into the daycares and the unethical trainers and everything else that comes with this industry. So yeah, I think referrals are something that I do very carefully, and sometimes quite hesitantly, and sometimes I have to say to people, listen, I don't know anyone that I can safely recommend. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And also, like I said earlier, me saying to somebody, sorry, I'm not the one to help, and here's who can. And if you speak to a professional that says that to you, that is very open about the boundaries of their expertise, that to me is a massive green flag. Because if someone can openly say to me, actually, sorry, I don't think I'm the right person, that to me tells me that they're quite an ethical professional.
Yeah.
And they're considering the thing that matters the most, which is, can I give this dog the best possible outcome? And if I can't, then I'm not going to take this person's money.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that is a lovely note to end on there, Carolina, because I know that we could keep talking for hours and hours. So, if people have been listening to this podcast and go, who is this Carolina? Oh my goodness, I need to find out. Where can people find you on social media?
So I am most active on Instagram. You can find me at Chewing with River. That's where you can find all my daily stories about what I get up to, all my free content, top tips around training, nutrition, some funny memes. Or I like to think they're funny. Yeah, Instagram is the best place to kind of get a sense of whether you like my vibe or not. Because I'm not for everybody. Not everyone likes an ADHD gobshite. um, and then if you are interested and you think, actually, yeah, I want to have a look at what she offers, then my website, chewingwithriver.com, is where you can find my training and nutrition packages. So yeah, in those you'll find ways to contact me directly as well. So
Amazing. Well, Carolina, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. I could just sit and listen to you like that when you're talking about. It's just the passion of which you speak about nutrition. It's just really refreshing. It's really refreshing, and I think as well, kind of disbanding that myth that it's raw or nothing, and raw is the only way, is something that's really important. When I first started raw feeding, it was for me like, oh, it's raw or nothing, and now I'm like, oh, as long as the dog is fed and we're hydrated, let's crack on. Let's work with what we've got, and see what improvements can be made. No, I think it's really refreshing. You're gonna have to come back because we need to talk more about raw and shit and anal glands because it's important, and of course talking about pain as well. So for those of you listening, if you have enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check out Carolina at Chewing with River on Instagram. Perfect, got it. For now, lots of love to you and your dogs, and I will speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.
bye.